Hey folks, Josh here with Presidio Advisors. I work with millennials who have equity comp, and a common question that I get from some of my clients who work at public companies is around what they should do with their RSUs that are about to vest. Should they hold them or should they turn around and immediately sell them? And the way I like to answer this question is actually by reframing away from what should you do with RSUs to what would you do if you actually got the equivalent amount in a cash bonus? Would you take that cash and run and spend it or reinvest it into some other, let's call it S&P 500, diversified ETF? Or would you take that cash and turn around and go buy shares of your public company? Most people would answer the question, well, I would take the cash and run with it. I would do, whatever I want with it. And that's actually a very good proxy for what you should do with your RSUs. So if you said, I would take the cash and do something else with it, then you should probably, that probably means that you should sell your RSUs immediately upon vest. And here's why thinking about this as a cash bonus is a pretty good proxy for what you should do with your RSUs. The reason comes down to taxes. Cash and RSUs are essentially taxed identically by the IRS. And so in this example here, let's assume that you get $10,000 in a cash bonus because you've been absolutely crushing it at your company this year. So you're going to recognize $10,000 of gross income. Before you actually even get that money, your company is legally required to withhold a certain percentage of taxes. And so your company is going to withhold 22% in supplemental wages. This is flat across the board unless you have income over $1 million. And they're also going to withhold the applicable state taxes, if there are any, and then FICA taxes. This is your Social Security and your Medicare. So at the end of the day, before you even get anything, they're going to withhold, let's call it $3,000 just for simplicity's sake. So that's about 30%. So when you go and you look into your account or you get your next paycheck, you're going to have $7,000 of additional cash that you're going to see. Now you can either take that cash and you can spend it or you can reinvest it. And we're going to assume here that you take that $7,000 and you reinvest it into a general S&P 500 ETF and you plan to hold it for longer than a year. So you've taken that $7,000. That $7,000 is now your new basis. And in a year and a half, you look back into your account, and the S&P 500 has been hot, and so your $7,000 is now worth $8,000, which means that you have a $1,000 gain. When you go to sell that $8,000 worth, you are going to see, you're going to recognize long-term capital gains on your gain only. That's the $1,000. And so we're going to assume that your long-term capital gains rate is 15%, which means that you're going to owe $150 in long-term capital gains tax. So at the end of the sale, the net cash that you're going to see is $7,850. That's if you had this cash bonus and you reinvested it into some, diversified fund. Now let's switch over to the RSU side and assume that you got $10,000 worth of shares because, again, you've been crushing it. You've been hitting all your KPIs. Before you even see that $10,000 worth of shares, your company is, again, required to withhold a certain amount for tax purposes. And it's the exact same amount as if you had received a $10,000 cash bonus. So they're going to hold 22% in supplemental wages, again, across the board, unless your income is over $1 million, plus any applicable state taxes, plus FICA taxes. And so for simplicity, we're assuming that your company is withholding $3,000 worth or about 30%. So when you go into your account, once your RSUs vest, you're going to see $7,000 worth of shares. And now you have a decision to make. Do you sell those $7,000 worth of shares, or do you keep those shares basically as an investment in your company? There's a common misperception here, and a lot of people think that they should actually hold their shares to recognize tax efficiencies, so to speak. But for all intents and purposes, this is false. And the reason why it's false is because your company has already withheld those taxes. So there's really no benefit to holding it for longer term other than recognizing long-term capital gains, which I'm going to walk you through right now. So you have, again, two scenarios here. You can take that $7,000 worth of shares and immediately sell it. If you immediately sell those shares, then you're going to have $7,000 worth of cash, and you are now in this cash scenario. So you can take that $7,000, you can spend it, or you can reinvest it back into the S&P 500. You're going to have a $7,000 basis, and kind of exactly what we walked through. If you decide instead to hold those $7,000 in shares of your company, and then you could do that. Let's fast forward to a year and a half, and let's assume that you kept those $7,000 worth of shares. That $7,000 worth of shares is now worth $8,000 worth, which means you have a gain of $1,000. Now you're content. Now you say, okay, I want to sell that $8,000 worth of shares. You're going to be taxed just the same way as you were in this cash situation on the $1,000 gain. That $1,000 gain, assuming your long-term capital gains rate is 15%, is going to mean that you owe taxes. You owe $150 worth of taxes, which means that the net cash that you see after selling your company shares is $78.50. Again, it's identical. And so often we recommend that if you have RSUs that are vesting, unless you would just sink that money right back into your company shares, you should probably sell them, because there really is no tax benefit to holding them for longer relative to what you could be doing with that cash. Consider this informational and educational only. You should definitely consult with your financial advisor for your particular situation. If you have more questions, you can feel free to reach out to me. I'm Josh. You can email me, josh@presidioadvisorsllc.com, or visit me at presidioadvisorsllc.com. Would love to chat more. Thanks, and hope this helps. Take care.